What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Izzyverse. I'm your host, Izzy, and we have a great show for you lined up. We're going to be talking a lot about Obi-Wan Kenobi and our thoughts of Obi-Wan Kenobi. So I have a great lineup of guests with me today that's going to talk all about it. But of course, as you guys already know, I'm going to give you my cheap plugs for the day, and I just want to let everybody know that this Friday we will be doing a prediction preview show for the Forbidden Door AEW New Japan event. This is one I've been waiting for since the whole discussion of Forbidden Door has come about. So that's going to happen this Friday. I got some great guests lined up for that one for this Friday at 8 p.m. Also, next week, we're doing it again, guys. We're doing Kickstarter. It's next week is Kickstarter, and we are going to select some books that we think are going to be worth checking out from Kickstarter. I'm going to be with my friend Ralph, as well as Phil, who was with me last time for the Kickstarter show. So be on the lookout for that one for next week on Thursday of next week. Also, they're going to be with me in Eternal Con that's happening as well. And finally, one more thing I want to let everybody know of and remind you of. If you're looking to buy some comic books and looking for some variants that are out there, go check out Comic Exposure. And if you use the promo code Izzyverse, you will get 15% off your purchase. Again, take advantage of that 15% off, especially when it comes to variants. When you can't find variants, go do that. I also am glad to announce that I am going to be doing a variant giveaway in the next couple of weeks. All you have to do is just leave a nice comment on the video, leave a like, a subscribe to the channel, and you too will be entered in to win a free variant comic book. Again, I am going to be offering a free variant comic book. I'm happy to announce that we did have a winner this week for the Aquaman book sketch drawing. I'm not going to show it off to you guys right now. I'm going to show it to you once I give it to Dee Dee, who won it last week. So I'm really happy for that. So now let's talk a little bit about Obi-Wan Kenobi, guys, and let's get into the panel. You guys are well aware of who is in my guest list here, starting with someone who's always with me when we do these reviews. Let's start with Andrew. Andrew, what's going on, bro?
Hi guys, how you doing, guys? How you doing, Izzy? How you doing? And the
yeah,
force be with you.
that's what I was thinking, and I was like, wait a minute, he got his Obi robe going on here. All right. Also, as part of my Obi gang, I got Luis Vasquez. Luis, what's going on, my brother?
Hello there. Welcome. I'm doing very well. I'm doing very good. Hyped. I'm excited to discuss this right now.
And again, another friend of the channel who has always been a part of our Star Wars crew, Roberto.
Hey,
Calderon. Good, good. How's everything, man?
Good, great.
The kids are nice and quiet right now. That's the good news. Fingers crossed.
Yes, fingers crossed.
Okay, we do have another guest that's going to be coming up shortly, but he's not going to be in right now. Hopefully, he'll make it a little later. And once he comes in, I'll bring him in and introduce to you. But you guys might be familiar with him already. And of course, conspicuous by his absence, we wish Michael, who is unable to join us for medical reasons, we wish him the best. Get well soon, buddy. I hope if you're watching this, we wish you the best, my brother. Okay, and we'll see you soon. With that said, let's get started and let's start talking our initial overall reactions to Obi-Wan Kenobi. So I started with Andrew, but I ended with Roberto. So Roberto, your initial reaction, without giving any spoilers, what was your overall reaction to the show? And don't give me a rating yet. We'll do that later on in the end.
I thought it was really good overall. I think it played out more like an extended movie. So kind of like watching something like all of Lord of the Rings in one sitting and treating it like a movie, like one, solid story, something like that. I think, you could probably see where this was probably like it would have been for an original movie, and they probably lengthened it or they could have shortened it, for a movie. But I thought overall it was really good. It's one of the, good pieces of Star Wars that we've had, in a while, kind of since season 2 of The Mandalorian.
Mm-hmm. All right, Luis, what about you? What were your overall reactions to the show?
I feel like it's gonna be a more critical from my perspective. It was very good. There were some moments that when you look at this series, I feel like you have to look at it more so on a scene by scene instead of episodically throughout the whole series, because there were definitely some high points but also some low points. I wouldn't say low points comparing to the Book of Boba Fett, because the Book of Boba Fett was more so volatile, at least from my perspective. But the Book of Kenobi, Obi-Wan Kenobi, was very good. It wasn't as volatile. It had its low moments, but it really, when it delivered right to your door, on your doorstep type of way. So I really enjoyed it.
Okay, Andrew, what about you, man?
When it came to my first reaction, especially from episode 1 through all to like today's episode, I mean, it was a very sad start. Like I was like almost in a shock, like when I saw like the first few scenes, and my initial reaction was like, oh no, it's going to be a really dark Star Wars uh, angle. It's just going to show a lot of what we believe the Sith were doing. And so like after my initial reaction was, oh no, it's a really good, it was a very good, but it was kind of like a somber moment. If you're a huge Star Wars fan, huge Jedi fan, this is like the almost like the story you didn't want to know,
Yeah.
but they told it. Yeah, it was just sad. It was a very sad beginning, and it was, but good. It's a somber but good beginning. Yeah, but
Okay.
yeah,
You know what? I felt a lot of the same thing. That beginning was, it was what I expected, to tell you the truth. The start of the show had a good, I think it had a very good starting point. Um, because it's 10 years later. He's a different man. He's not the same person he once was, and that's something that we had to take, understand about the show in particular, that he was changed after everything that has happened, right? Everything that has happened caused him to be a different person. And even as we watched the show, we knew that there was things that were going to change, right? We weren't going to get this person that was at the end of episode 3, like he was gun ho and ready to do. We get a person that was broken, and that's what we saw to start it. And I think that was, dare I say, was expected. In the show, I think I was very much expecting that to be the case. um with that very first opening scene, with him living in was it Tatooine? Yeah, in Tatooine,
mhm.
which apparently is a very popular spot. Everybody wants to be
Everything's
in
happening.
Everything
You have
happens in
that biker
Tatooine,
gang,
right?
but before, I mean,
Yeah, and there was a lot of that going on. So with that said, it was a very somber beginning. And well, what I did find interesting towards the end, and I'm not giving anything away um just yet, is that the ending wasn't as somber as I thought it would have been. If you know what I'm talking about, guys. So overall reactions to the show was, I enjoyed watching it, right? There was some peaks and valleys. I probably would say very similar to how I felt about Boba Fett.
oh wow.
You know what I mean? That's how I felt about it. So let's go in, and now let's spoil the crap out of the show because that's what people want to see. The
Yeah.
spoiler warning,
Of
right?
course, yes.
So let's give our spoiler warning. Let's start it off by talking about that first episode, episode 1, and let's look at the story from the beginning. We have Obi-Wan Kenobi, who it's been 10 years now. He's been living as a hermit, right? He's been doing the same things, going to work. He's working like anybody else, takes a piece of meat, gives it to his little, camel like character, and then does it again the next day and is always spying on Luke.
That's the same animal that farted on Jar Jar Binks, if you
I
remember.
think so, yeah.
Yeah.
So episode 1, which is actually entitled Believe it or not, guys, in case you didn't know, they did not know. They did not name the episodes. They just
Yeah.
called them Part One, Part
Mhm.
2, Part 3, Part 4. So it's 10 years after Order 66. He is now living as a hermit, pretty much the way we see him in the beginning of the first Star Wars movie in Episode 4, right? The New Hope. So you see that, and of course, as always, something goes down, and he is now being recruited because and I told you, Andrew, in the show when we did the preview, I told you we were gonna get to Leia. We were gonna do Leia, and this show had so much Leia.
Yeah.
I was like, we were all talking about Luke, and I was like, this show is gonna be about Leia. And
Yeah. I thought it was gonna be like a Luke heavy episode. Yeah.
it was very heavy Leia episode. So again, we get a nice, cute little Leia in Alderaan, Princess Leia,
Yeah.
who is exactly what we expected her to be like, right? What do you guys thought about the actress who played Leia?
I think she did very good. She delivered the lines very well. Of course, she's a child actor, but nevertheless, for a child actor, I think she did really good. Honestly, you you could tell that this is a young Princess Leia. She has that sass, she has that wittiness, but again, that drive and that passion that you would
Mhm.
expect from a younger Princess Leia. So I think she did very well. I have really nothing bad or negative to say or any gripes. Honestly, I think she did very well.
Yeah. Another thing we learned about Obi, and I think totally expected, is that the Jedi are being hunted. And it's been 10 years now. For the most part, all force sensitive beings have been either killed or converted,
Mhm.
right? And one of the things that I noticed about this particular episode, which was the fact that Obi was very helpless. You know what I mean? Where that force sensitive person came to see him, Narden, right? Narden's his name.
Yeah.
He came and asked for help, and he was like, "Nah,
He
I couldn't do anything."
what we saw
Well,
was oh yeah.
Go ahead,
Go on.
Roberto.
Yeah.
it was interesting because I think he was very Well, when they've been doing like with the Marvel films, like everybody's talking about your feelings, and it's just he's just burnt out, depressed. You see
Defeated.
all
He
these
feels defeated.
defeated. He's depressed. You know, something I don't know what, but something possessed me to rewatch the sequel trilogy. But there's a
Mhm.
little bit of the Last Jedi vibes with like this burnt out, jaded Jedi. Like they don't teach them how to deal with loss. They don't.
When they
It's
don't
like,
win, right?
yeah, when you don't
Yeah.
win, it's like, okay, so what do we do? And they have no resilience. They don't know how to recover from such a heavy defeat. And, you kind of see these parallels, some of it's probably intentional with them trying to like loop in all the sequel trilogy with everything that they've been doing. And, with George Lucas, it's poetry, it rhymes kind of motto. And,
It's about
but,
family too. That's what matters.
yeah.
Yeah.
And but it's just so interesting because he's like, yeah, I could care less. He's like, playing golf, whatever. Like, it was very sad watching, seeing him so disheartened, compared
Yeah.
to even how we see him in A New Hope, where he's like encouraging Luke to go off, and then how we see him,
Yeah, and I see a little bit of that transitioning happening here. Again, towards the end of the end of the season, he was definitely a more positive. He was definitely a more positive Obi-Wan, which it was a little weird seeing that because he just reverted back to being his hermit self, right? But he seemed to be a little more optimistic. Where in A New Hope, trying to remember the movie. It's been a bit since I've seen it, and I've seen it plenty of times. But in A New Hope, he wasn't as optimistic as you probably would think. Because how many years later would that be? Another 10 years before?
9, 10 years. Yeah.
Yeah, it's another 10 years, maybe even less. Because wasn't Luke like 16, 17 or something
Yeah,
like that?
he was a teenager. So if
I
you're
thought he was like
thinking that Luke
18
is
or
10,
19.
right?
Yeah,
Yeah. I
in
was
the show,
thinking
He's 10 because they made it clear that there's 10 years. It made it clear that they were born. So it's definitely 10 years after Order 66. And she was born during, the kids were born during Order 66, right on the spot, right? So it's 10 years later. And Luke, he ends up, befriending Luke at around 16, 17. So I'm going to say it's about 6 years later. But at the same token, it's like that's the part that always interests me a little bit about it is with prequels in particular, and problems with prequels is the fact that we know the ending, right? We just got to figure out how the path to that ending is, and sometimes they hit it, sometimes they don't, and it's a hard thing to hit, right? One of the things that I personally thought was a bit confusing, and this is where I'm going to take it to Andrew, who's going to talk a little bit more about it, is the character of Reva.
Yeah.
Reva to me was all over the place. So, Andrew, talk to me about Reva. Tell me who Reva is. Tell me everything you know about Reva, who was played by Moses Ingram.
I believe Reva was trying to be one of the third sisters of the Sith, not Sith, but more of an Inquisitors, Sith Inquisitors. Though they're not Sith per se, they're kind of like an offshoot of Sith. So what they did was they just
acolytes.
Yeah, they're pretty much like acolytes. Now, I liked Reva as a character, as a concept. The concept was great. The actress, Moses Ingram, she did a really good job. If her job was to show a character in conflict, then she probably succeeded throughout the entire. Like if you look from when she first started to where she ended, like today, I felt like she was a very conflicted character. Mm-hmm. She was everywhere because I think what we call it's a really crazy term called the hot mess character. So yeah, she was a
hot mess.
She was a hot mess, moody, angry, and this is really typical of Sith behavior. So she was going through all the stages until she was really good. I mean, I like the actress
she was Anakin.
She was pretty much what you want as a character in that series. My question is it looked like each and every episode, it was like she was fighting the script a little bit. Like I liked the character, but it kind of looked like it was just like, you ever heard of like too many chefs in one stew kind of deal? Where 1 minute she's angry, 1 minute she's conniving, 1 minute she's sad, 1 minute she just chops somebody's arm off. I'm like, where is she going? Like, again, so I pretty much says if this is the character they were trying to convey, a character who's really trying and really discombobulated, they succeeded. If she was someone who was supposed to be in order of her emotions, no, she is not a person with an order of emotions.
Okay, so but my problem with her was, and yes, I think I agree with you 100% that she was all over the place. But my problem with Reva, the character, not so much the actress, even though there were moments with her as an actress, I was like, maybe she.
Yeah, I know.
Maybe she's overacting. She felt very
try hard.
Yeah, try hard, but she also came across as very teen Nick in her acting styles, if you know what I'm talking about.
Oh, I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
Campy.
Yeah,
we call it campy in our. If you're Generation Z or G, yeah, it was campy. It was 90s.
And the problem I felt with the character was that in episode 1 she's this, in episode 2 she's this, in episode 4 she's something else. Like in every single episode she was in, it was like we have a new version of this character. And where she's like when we first see her in the first part, right? In part 1, we first see her and she's hunting down, Obi-Wan. You would think that the motive was to get to Obi-Wan, and because she had a motive to get Obi-Wan because Obi-Wan wronged her in some way. That was the impression we were given. It turns out It was all a plot to get to Vader,
Mhm.
right? That's all it was. It was a plot to get to Vader so she could kill Vader.
We have to mention something very important.
Yeah.
In episode 1, it opens up with Order 66.
Mhm.
It opens up with Order 66, and with her character, I saw what they did with this, where she, because it opens up with some younglings training with their master, some taekwondo or some martial arts. Then clone troopers come in and just start blasting up, and then
Yeah.
the somehow or via the clone troopers, they kill the master, and Vader comes in
Mhm.
and does what he has to do. But the thing is, it's very noticeable that she was one of those younglings.
Oh yeah, that was obvious.
You could see that from a mile away. And when they did that, and me already, like, since I already saw some of the trailers and some previews, I already knew, all right, so they're gonna try to mold her into a Sith that they built her up. Maybe they just deceived her or whatever. But I like what they did with the character in the sense of where she wasn't just corrupted just because they deceived her. It's like she let herself get corrupted to get inside the fold, like not a double agent, but just as a sleeper cell, I guess that's the term. And then,
But that's the thing. That
then
was the
spring the
problem I
trap
had.
away.
That was the problem I had with her. Like, she didn't pick a side. She was her own side, in other words, right? So
Well, it's the general opportunist style character. They're on their own side. Yeah.
Yeah, and the problem is like, I felt as we watched the season unfold, what I was seeing from this particular character was that she was mad that Obi didn't save them. That's how I would envision it, and guess I think that's what they wanted us to believe. But in fact, what it was the fact that she needs to get to Obi so that he could deliver Vader to her. And the craziest thing about it, which I love, actually, I did like this. Vader knew it all.
Yeah, oh, definitely.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, go ahead, Robert.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry.
It was interesting because I think the other issue that I had was, like, we got introduced to Inquisitors in 2 prior mediums. Like, we got introduced to Inquisitors in Star Wars Rebels and in the video game Jedi Fallen Order. And she seems so out of place compared to what we've been presented with the Inquisitors, Like, she doesn't, kind of like interesting, she's, when you see it all together, it makes sense why she is the way she is. When you first see it, knowing those previous incarnations that we've been given, it seems very out of place. Like, oh, she's a little more. Why is she more overzealous than the Grand Inquisitor? Why is she more overzealous than the others? And the initial thing that I had with the look was the fact that she was the only one that kind of really didn't have, like, Sith eyes. And you kind of see that with all the Inquisitors, that they have this, like, they've fully been given in to the dark side, or they've been twisted in some way. And she still looks like, she doesn't look twisted in any way, her face. Like, they didn't do anything else to her. Like, you saw a little bit with the other human Inquisitor in Fallen Order. Like, you could tell, like, here was someone who was, like, twisted and given into darkness, and kind of had the effects of the dark side on her body, in a sense. Like,
you know what? Yeah, the first 2 episodes when she showed her brutality, I was like, yeah, this is she's like she's on her way towards, like, she's like full in. Like, the thing about the Sith eyes, there's just a lot of actors who can't wear those contacts. It's just, that's one of the weird.
Yeah, but that's also a CGI effect that
it goes for CGI. So I think what I loved about, like, the first 2 episodes with her was she showed her brutality to the point where it was, I'm actually more in control of like, I'm in more control of the situation than I'm leading on to be.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it was amazing that you actually see how these Inquisitors, because we knew how they did it in the cartoons, but that's cartoons. Yeah. What we actually saw is the live action.
It's all part of canon. So
it's part of canon, but we actually saw a little more brutality from them. We actually see a little bit more, like, even the back and forth. Like, they didn't like her. She didn't care that they didn't like her. She
They
didn't
didn't like each
them.
other.
They didn't like each other. We're just working with each other. Yeah, it's kind of like you can't even call like pirate behavior, because pirates actually did
There's a
work well with
camaraderie.
each other.
These guys don't like each other.
Yeah, it's kind of like it's like a reverse of a band of brothers. Like if you're in any kind of military situation, he got your back and I got your back. That's and it's kind of like this very weird reversal of the actual norms. They're actually in competition of each other. They're actually trying to be like Vader's hand or the Palpatine's hand, and it's like really Yeah.
We see this behavior in Legends with in the Old Republic, where the Sith, they looked out for themselves. If they had to stab someone, one of their own in the back, they would. I mean, it's in the doctrine of the Sith, the rule of two. If one of you guys is my master and I'm the apprentice, you teach me most of the stuff that I need to know, however it may be, and then hating you or resenting you, then little by little I'll find my way, or the time of the moment, and I'll kill you and I'll take your place, and then the cycle goes forth. When it came to Reva, she had control over her. She had control over herself and not letting herself be consumed by the dark side. That reminded me of, and I'm not comparing her to Count Dooku, but Count Dooku's control concerning of the dark side. Because if you see in the Clone Wars cartoons, he never, except for one or two instances, he has the Sith eyes. He has control of the dark side of the Force, but he doesn't let it consume him. So not to compare the power scaling, but I feel like it's a similar type of vibe concerning with the Reva. But even in Rebels, the Inquisitors, if I remember correctly, because I can't remember fully about Rebels, but the Inquisitors were still somehow, they had a little like a vibe going on. They weren't really butting heads, even though there might have been some conflict here and there. But if I remember correctly, there was still some sort of not teamwork, but they were some way, shape, or form on the same page.
Yeah, an agreement, and kind of like a. Here's the thing, like when we're talking about Sith, I think the best representation of Sith in the past maybe 5 years is in Visions. If you ever saw Visions, like Star Wars Visions, the anime.
Yeah, the anime is amazing. You guys, if you haven't seen it, watch it.
It to me, it's like we were given what Sith can be. You had this one who's like the Ronin, the one that's pretty much like stylized and it pretty much looks like if they did it in Sume Ink. The first episodes, and you find out that these two guys are fighting, and they're just different parts of Sith. Like he goes, "Wait, your lightsaber is red." He goes, "Yeah, why wouldn't it be?" Like it's just like, "Hey man, you're in my territory," So it's like it was one of my favorite things where he went shut up an entire town and then he destroyed everyone. He goes, "Wait, but you're Sith too." It's like, yeah, you're knocking on my front door. This is mine, And that's how I felt. Like, yeah, I know, but this is mine already. Get out of here, Like it's so like they're literally like dogs fighting, like rabid dogs fighting for a piece of bone. That's what a Sith had to be.
Exactly.
River in the beginning, like that. I forgot the name of the man with the
Senate. It looks like the Senate building.
Yeah, he looks like the Senate building on his head, right? He's just like
one of the brothers.
He just like despised all. First brother or second brother. Like he just despised all of them. Like you, like, ugh. Like you walk around like
you mean the fifth brother? You're talking about the fifth brother, right?
Fifth brother. Yeah, he just was disgusted by all of them.
I love the fifth brother.
Loved him. He disgusted by everyone. Why am I even here? Hey, calm the hell down, because you're making you're doing too much. Like
just relax.
That gravelly voice.
Go to the corner or something. Like
go to the corner.
Remember, he pinned Reva. I think it was in the second episode. He pinned Reva like against the wall. I was like, man, learn your place. You gotta chill. Even though he was looking out for himself, because he wanted to be.
They all wanted the position, right?
But he was like, you gotta chill out.
But I always find it funny because I'm not that familiar with the Inquisitors like that, but he's the fifth brother. She's the third sister. So in my mind, thinking it from outsider looking in, does that mean that he's fifth in line? Because you get my point. It's
Yeah.
like, um,
Yeah, I am fifth brother, but today, Xing, I am fourth brother now. Like,
and I'm sorry, where's the second or third brother?
They
Second,
all died or something.
Yeah.
So you know what I mean?
Wasn't there a comic that had showed the initial origins, and he's
yeah, so the Darth Vader comic book does that. So
Yeah.
that's where we get to see a little bit more about the Inquisitors through the Darth Vader comics, which are still out. And you guys, if anybody wants to read them, you could pick them up either through Comixology or Marvel Unlimited. And they're there to read. But yeah, that's part of the whole thing. Let's talk a little bit more about our secondary characters, because there are some great characters that I personally fell in love with. Luis, I know there was one in particular that you didn't like, but I actually loved him because he did
I
remind
know
me
I
of
didn't
other
like
people.
him. I just thought he was a bit too extra.
oh my God, yes. And I like that. Oh my God, Flea. Yes. I call it Imperial Flea. I love it.
All right, so we get to learn about some other characters, and let's start with the first. Let's start with the first one, which is Flea, right? Because you didn't mention Flea. I love the fact that Flea was just being Flea. You know what I mean? Like, he was like, "You gonna wear anything?" "Yeah, I'm gonna wear my regular clothes." So, is it because when it comes to Flea, he's only gonna wear his clothes, or he's gonna wear a sock? If you guys know what I'm talking
Or
about,
not, yeah, or
right?
nothing at all. Nothing at all.
No, he wears a sock. He does wear a sock. Okay, guys, remember the Red Hot Chili Pepper, man. I know my Red Hot Chili Peppers, man.
I have no idea.
Oh, trust me, Luis, you don't
Never
want to
heard of.
know.
Oh my God, just
It's like an airplane just going above me.
Well, yeah, Flea he's the basis to the Red Hot Chili Peppers, but he does movies. He's actually a known actor, and he's always doing these secondary roles. One of my favorite Flea scenes will have to be in Back to the Future.
Mhm.
He's in Back to the Future 2 and 3, and what's wrong with you? What are you, chicken? And he gets the whole fire thing, and he's aged up, so it's just, if you ever pay attention, you'll see it's Flea, and you're like, oh, look at Flea. And he's in a lot of great movies, man. He's awesome. Another good movie he's in, and it's a lot of people don't know about this movie because it hasn't really aged. The Chase, if anybody remembers The Chase.
yeah, I remember
that
Chase.
movie? And they had like a Hummer or something like that, or a Jeep. And
That was what's his name? That was the not Martin Sheen, Charlie Sheen's
Charlie
movie.
Sheen. Yeah, Charlie
Yeah.
Sheen's movie where he accidentally kidnapped her.
Yeah.
What?
It's a comedy. You got to see
What-
it. It is
what
such a great
What
fun movie.
episode did he come in? This was
He was-
the second episode,
Second and
correct?
third.
So
yeah.
he showed up in the second episode. He kidnapped Leia. He
Listen,
kidnapped
that
Leia
scene
for Reva.
when they were chasing Leia, I was like, okay, like I get what, like I understand, like I'll turn the blind eye from it, but I want to know why the Alderaan security or Secret Service isn't doing like send out all the agents or whatever. The princess of the planet is literally been kidnapped. Close all the space, borders or whatever.
I don't know. I don't know about the security in the Star Wars universe. None of them are good.
They don't have a.
They don't know how to do
railings
it
for bridges. So
It's not their day job.
They're probably getting paid minimum wage or something like that. Not that much training, because we know a stormtrooper can't shoot for crap.
That's
right. And
again, the bridges don't have railings.
And the bridges don't have. It's like, it would be nice if there'd be some, that whole
Are you saying that Star Wars has an OSHA problem?
It does. It actually does. That's a good one, Andrew. Yes. So we learned that they don't have a union. They definitely have problems with railings.
Yes.
Stormtroopers have very minimal
Where's the
training.
Amber Alert? Listen, like an Amber
Oh,
Alert.
imagine an Amber Alert across the galaxy. Everybody's like,
in the region, like
And you got the license plate of the ship that she's supposed to be on.
Damn, dude.
That's good. All right, so we Flea kidnapped her, and of course she's smarter than all these guys, of course. But there's more characters that we learn about because Obi does eventually get to her because um, the senator asks for Obi's help. Obi eventually gives in and does the job, even though he did leave. He did manage to get. Unfortunately, we had that one force sensitive guy who was killed.
Yeah.
And man, he
Brutal.
was that was bad. I was like, ooh, it went there.
But you mentioned something. You mentioning that guy, because we mentioned a bit earlier. We talked about that we see, as I think Andrew mentioned, or Roberto, that Obi-Wan is more like a similar version to how we see Luke in The Last Jedi.
Yeah.
But the thing is, he still has some sort of not connection with the Force, but willing, because remember, he tells Owen, hey, when he's the age, he has to be trained. So he has that sort of remembrance. Is like, no, like being faithful to like his mission. So he has that sort of connection. Like, I have some sort of faith, but he's like basically handy on a thread. The two sons of Tatooine and the monotonous job, it has just grinded him down. He's just been defeated. He has that PTSD and whatnot.
Yeah.
So when he sees that guy saying, "Oh, Master General Kenobi, this and this and that," like,
and he didn't want to admit that he was Obi. He
exactly.
was like, "That's not me. I don't know what you're talking about."
And he told him, just like, take your lightsaber and bury it in the desert and live a normal life. And he's like, but how can you say that? And he's like, we've lost. So him saying that and him just like kind of casting him aside, I really feel bad for him. We see a grinded down Obi-Wan Kenobi. So the transformation over these 6 episodes, I think, is very remarkable. More or less, depending on 1 to 4, since it happens around that time.
Yeah. What I really thought about that scene, and what was really sad, was that you have like one of the greatest, like
on the council,
the greatest of the council, and you're there. And the funny thing about Jedis and Sith, they feel each other out, like almost like the quickening and almost like a quickening from, which I think they stole from Highlander stole that from Star Wars. But yeah,
don't worry, Star Wars stole most of their stuff from Dune.
That's true too, right?
So
actors. You have, well, I just say borrowed, quick unquote, allegedly,
all that spice, you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. But what I found very interesting was that even though the kid knows that all was failed, he still tried to help. Like, I mean, it's one of the sad things about the Jedi. The reason why the Jedi got captured is because they were helping people in the shadows. Mm-hmm. And the only reason why Obi-Wan survived was because he wasn't. And that to me was a bitter, kind of like just a bitter pill to just a bitter pill to chew. Like, it was just very, to me, because I read the Kenobi books too back in the day, and read the comics of Kenobi, and Kenobi's doing like let me take out stormtroopers by the hundreds kind of thing. Then you have this version where he is just like, no, I didn't help anyone. I'm here. I'm fishing, like macro fishing, like whales. Like, I don't even know. I wish I knew what the name of that monster was.
Yeah.
That was a great scene. Just like all these guys, like they hunted this whale, and they're just like everyone's just processing the meat, and he's just basically a meat processor, like a fisherman. Yep. Really, that's all he is. He's a fisherman.
So I have a question for you guys. As we keep talking about this, because he does go back to Owen and he starts talking to him, but Owen changed his whole mindset of how things were. Like, you're not gonna do this. He's not gonna be trained. It's like, he's my kid now. I'm like, in my head, I'm like, dude, man, your job is to take care of them for this time period.
Right, but he's right. Oh no, Uncle Owen was right. That is my kid, and I'm seeing these dudes I'm seeing Jedis being killed left and right. Of course, he's going to be like, he's a concerned father now. I mean, he may be my son's brother, but I'm his
Little
father
orphan
now.
Annie.
Yeah, he was pretty much determined not to make anyone found out that
About Luke.
about Luke. I love the fact that these are like very two protective people in Luke's life.
Yeah.
And you almost
And you
wonder,
know, and we learn. Go ahead, Luis,
Yeah.
before we move on.
I was
No,
gonna say,
Roberto,
you
it's
almost
Robert.
wonder,
Oh, I'm sorry, Roberto. I didn't even know.
Yeah.
I wasn't paying attention. I was looking at my
Um,
other screen.
you almost wonder how much did Obi-Wan tell him when he handed off Luke about it, because he kind of says like you trained his father, and you know, and
The sassy quotes.
yeah, these different things. But it's almost like, you know, it's interesting that he almost is like he's looking out for Luke, but he has this resentment towards Obi-Wan about how things ended with Anakin, even though they weren't really like they had this very short familial connection, you know, where it's like, oh yeah, like technically this is my half brother. But I wonder how much did Obi-Wan tell him like, hey, I trained him, he became Darth Vader, and now he sees like maybe even the fear like I don't want this kid to end up destroying the galaxy, you know, if someone finds out. Like I want to keep him as far away from that and preserve his innocence in a sense.
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah, I
totally
don't.
understandable.
Owen didn't know that Anakin turned into Vader, did he? He didn't know that, right?
No, I don't think so.
No,
So he
But I-
doesn't know that Vader is Anakin.
No.
Okay, so that's interesting to understand. So we
I
get
think
to this point.
Obi-Wan Kenobi he had to tell Owen, like, hey, you know, he's dead. Because remember, all this time, and this is another mini gripe, even though he's isolated himself, it's been 10 years and you haven't heard any update about the Empire. You haven't heard about this Darth Vader going around part of the military. There has to be something. I mean,
No,
No,
I'm sure
the
they knew about Vader, but they
no, they
didn't.
knew
They
about
didn't
Vader,
put.
but the truth be
no, I'm
told,
saying
no.
Obi-Wan Kenobi didn't know about Vader.
Right,
That's
right.
the thing.
But truth be told, the Hutt controls that region. Like
That is true.
the Hutt be like, oh, you're coming into my region, right? While you're sleeping, your entire battalion's gone. Like them Hutts were like,
That's true. That's true.
that's Hutt
But at the
space.
same time, that was something that a lot of people were wondering about, and there was a big issue in regards to the fact that Kenobi didn't know that Vader was still. Obviously, he knows Vader is Anakin. That he knows,
Yeah.
but he didn't. But he was surprised to find out that he lived on and so forth instead of dying on the planet, where he was pretty much burned alive. So we get to this point. I'm sorry, Luis, but I'm gonna keep going because we're we got to make sure we catch up on time. So they end up, we get to this part 2. Kenobi then manages to save Leia. We get to see Haja. Oh my goodness! When they were saying, "Oh, I know a Jedi that could help you," and it was him. I was like, "Oh, he's such a phone." I knew it 100%. He was a phony. Like he is such a fake man. And then the part of the tricks he was doing with the lights is like, "Oh, do this." And then, but the cool thing is that he actually had good intentions, even though he was hustling people, of course. But he had, he was still a good man deep down inside. So, what do you guys thought of Haja?
I thought it was an interesting character. It was interesting because he was one of the characters that you see he become redeemable throughout the episodes as they progress. But it was interesting because he fits so well into the planet they take you to. This is like, I mean, New York City in the 70s, 60s, everybody's a hustler, everything's going on. And here he is. He's hustling. He's
doing his thing.
I wonder how, but he's using the best. He's like, well, I'm a Jedi. He sets us this whole entrapment, to fool people because he knows he's probably familiar with the legends. He knows everybody. He's like, this is an easy gimmick to do.
Yeah.
But it's interesting because in that episode, the first episode, when you really see him kind of there, he hustles and he gives Obi-Wan some information, and Obi-Wan kind of catches him, and he's like, "Oh, you kind of caught me."
No, Obi-Wan knew from the beginning he was a fake. You know what I mean?
It's like,
But I don't feel another Jedi in this area. What are you talking about?
yeah.
Which was an interesting part because Jedi's being hunted down, right? So the fact that he was just claiming to be a Jedi, even though he was claiming to be even though he was a fake Jedi, he wasn't really force sensitive or anything like that. It's like, for me to say I'm going to claim as a Jedi, I know I'm not being hunted down. Why am I going to be? You know what I'm saying? It's like, I
No,
don't know if I want to do that.
but you know what? Was a good friend of mine when we were talking about this too. He actually hinted to me that maybe that the Empire, and we already knew this, were spread very thin. Like that's why I think there are just some certain areas in space where Imperial space was controlled by Imperial space, but they were spread out very thin. That's why I think when you went to that planet, it was like there were hardly any like hell. They still. That's my favorite episode because you actually see a clone trooper, the homeless clone trooper.
Yeah.
Who was just like,
Yeah,
and I was like,
he got the Easter egg, right? It was
right, and I was like, holy crap! And I was like, I know for a fact that Tarkin wanted all those clone guys gone. Because if you ever watched Bad Batch was just like, yeah, send these guys into here, and if they die, whatever. Oh, you still want to work? Yeah. No, you work in the docks. Like they were spread out so thin. Even with the clone troopers, Tarkin was like, no, I don't want these guys working with us anymore. They were a means to an end. Like, I am certainly surprised to see that kind of cool Easter egg, and then you have like this cool cyberpunk city. So of course, like in that kind of city, you'll have like his character like a wheeler and dealer. That's actually why I loved. That's why I loved that whole episode, just on an aesthetic point. And then all of a sudden, you have like the buffoonery character. Like you pretty much have the I don't know if you kind of the comic relief kind of character. Perfect setting for it because everything there is like kind of like mystery. Yeah. Didn't see how his purpose was at the time. I just thought it was a good after 3 episodes of like very depressing stuff, it's good to have like a release a little bit. Yeah. So I kind of dig his character, and of course I like the character. Of course I like the actor. The actor is just like
yeah. So we get to episode 3. We get to part 3, and we have Kenobi and Leia on the run, and they get picked up.
Mole face.
By a mole face mole.
Who was the actor?
It was Zach Braff. The actor was Zach Braff from Scrubs. So
okay, the reason why I turn off Scrubs. Okay, that's.
But I will say, man, he was like, to me, he just felt, he was like, "Hey guys, how you doing? Yo, the Empire's dope." I was just like, yeah, they're great guys. I love those guys.
We need a bit of order in the galaxy.
Yeah, oh my goodness, it was cracking me up.
Coruscant great again.
It was cracking me up because
make the outer rim great again. Yeah.
He was like, he first shows up and you're like, oh, this is a cool guy. But then when he was like, yeah, the Empire is great. This is awesome. I love these people.
I'm half expecting him to have a tattoo on his ass.
And then he's a snitch. He's a snitch saying he goes to this gate post. I picked up 2 stragglers out there. You might want to check them out. I'm thinking to myself, my man, like, can you like really not? I mean, like,
but it was there because he brings the stormtroopers in.
They should have given multicolored hair. That's all I gotta say about that situation.
He was I love them. I don't care, man. I want more Freck. I want the stories of Freck.
What's his species name?
I don't know, but
species X9 or something.
One thing I can say about Freck, man, he was one of my favorites, man. I loved Freck. I thought he was great.
This episode, we also see some more PTSD by Kenobi, seeing Anakin Skywalker like in the distance, and he's like, whoa.
Yeah, he's just remembering, of course that affected him. But I will say one thing I did love about this particular episode was that moment where he's talking to Leia, and she's like, "You're not telling me everything." It's like, "Yeah, I knew your parents, and or I didn't know your parents or your mother or something like that." And he was like, he was just remembering, everything that Padme was. and how much he missed them, and how the tragic story of Padme is. Because let's face it, man, her story is tragic at the end.
Yeah.
It unfortunately had to happen, right? Based off to get to episode 4, that kind of stuff had to happen. We also get to meet
Unfortunately, Rachel, from your age, she died. No.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then this is the no. Yeah.
We also get to meet Talia Durif, played by Inyara Varma, who
Oh, she's great. She's great in so much stuff, man. Oh.
Yeah, so
Agreed.
she was a double spy, and I loved it. I absolutely loved it when she first showed up, and she was like, "Oh, before we even talked about that, how messed up was it that stormtrooper got cut in half?"
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
It was pretty good though. You can't lie. It was
He's
pretty
like,
good though.
"Oh,
Yeah.
poor guy." Poor
They pulled the
stormtrooper.
Darth Maul. They pulled the Darth Maul with him.
Oh my goodness, yeah, that was a Darth Maul episode.
He's coming back then.
Put him at the back to tank.
Tell me what you guys thought about Talia, because I really enjoyed that character. I think she was really good. The fact that she was working both sides. Obviously, she was on the side of the rebels. But what was really nice was just to see how she was very she knew what to say and when to say it, pretty much, right? Even though she had like, what I got to think of, but she thought of it and stuff. So, what do you guys thought about Talia in particular?
I thought she was great. I think it humanized, kind of like the trend you can see. They've been humanizing characters that, you're like, okay, that's just a typical bad guy. But it's like, she gave more depth to like kind of a typical Imperial officer. Like, I thought I was doing the right thing. I thought we were helping out people. And then it wasn't what I signed up for. Like, I didn't sign up to do X, Y, Z. And, kind of like they're not all bad. Like, you see some of them in like, the Mandalorian, like, yeah, they're like, we don't care, we're gonna do this. But then you see others in like, what was the Battlefront game, at the end of the Empire, it's like that character from Battlefront is rethinking her choice. Like, this is what we signed, this is what the Empire is, this isn't what it looks like. Mm-hmm. So it kind of like leads to like, I think even with her, why you see more building towards the rebellion. Like, the only way the rebellion is successful is if you have enough Imperials kind of defecting.
Mm-hmm.
You see that in Star Wars Rebels. You see some, Imperials who defect. And so it kind of, at least on the live screen, shows that like, okay, here's somebody who, is looking for redemption. You could start seeing where maybe others are following her lead. There's probably someone who served under her who like hears her story and thinks twice. And
yeah, I liked her.
I really did like her because
Agreed.
She is a good example of a soldier who's fighting in the war and realized that she's on the wrong side.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
It's like Finn, but done
there's a difference between the action and the ideology. I mean, and what I love, like, I'm a big fan of Indira. So, like, I'm a huge fan. From Luther, she's done so many movies. She's done so many BBC shows. But mostly, like, Luther was like my favorite part. My favorite. She also did like, I want to say she did a couple of good period movies that, like, Sword and Sandal style movies. I'm not thinking it was Spartacus or something like that. I think it was one of those kind of like movies, but series. But I'm absolutely like the fact that she told the stories of what happened to the people before him. She told the stories of what happened to the people through that Underground Railroad, like the Underground Railroad. She's like pretty much the storyteller of those people who were not fortunate to escape the Imperial. I want to know where they went though, because they must have gone to like wild space or out of the Outer Rim. Like, this network sounds a lot more interesting than we were let on, and more extensive than we were let on. So like, you actually like, they actually built a good canon story for like maybe other stories down the line, maybe even second batch. When the second batch comes out.
This could obviously be in a comic book series. They could do a little comic mini series with
They
them.
could mention it in Andor.
Yeah,
I mean, depending on the
yeah.
time difference.
Well, and one thing that was interesting that she mentioned is Quinlan Voss, who was a
Yeah.
Jedi.
Yep.
And he survived.
Yes, there was a lot of discussion about him in particular and him showing up. Everybody thought he was going to show up, but
Well, yeah, people
unfortunately he
thought
didn't.
Roken was gonna be the person who played Roken was gonna be.
Yeah. So let's talk about Roken for a second, because what I didn't know about Roken, it was funny because it was a joke that I told my wife. I was like, yeah, you know, he's this Ice Cube guy, and it turns out he's Ice Cube's son.
Oh
Yeah.
my God.
Yeah, he's Ice Cube's son.
He's Ice Cube's son. So O'Shea Jackson Jr. is actually the son of Ice Cube. And that's the reason why he looks like Ice Cube.
Yes.
He's like a carbon copy Ice Cube. He was
But he's
one
funnier.
of he was very much I want to say without the pizzazz, without the you know, he felt very much like a Lando to me in some way. Again, without the flair. Lando without the flair. He was, you know, he was about the people. He was about helping people, and ultimately, he understood the purpose of the mission that Kenobi was in. Without saying, you know, they're, you know, because again, he could have easily said, they're getting you. They want you. They don't want us, because he knew it. He knew that it was about Obi. It wasn't about anybody else. You know, Reva was after Obi. Vader was after Obi. No one really cared so much about that network. The Empire didn't care. They were secondary to them, right?
Yeah, it's
And-
like we'll get to them eventually. Yeah.
Yeah,
They're
the
like
only-
changed. They're like, yeah, you know.
The only person that cared about was the network was the Grand Inquisitor. He was the only one, because
Basically.
he even told Vader, he was like, yo, but it will be wise for us to go after them. That is just one man. And Vader's like, he's not just one man. You know,
He's not just any other Jedi.
he's
Is
not.
like,
He like, there's only one Jedi bigger than him. You know what I mean? It's like, so, you know,
Seriously, I thought Kenobi was going to be like, because like when I was like reading the comic books, man, it's like Kenobi's kind of like their Jason Bourne, their John Wick. Like he's their heavy hitter character, second to Anakin. These guys are just their heavy hitters. Like, yeah, bad problems, suicide missions. Yeah, just send Obi-Wan and Luke. So like I was just like, I'm gonna tell you right now, like his character was the only one who was saying, you know what? I know you're more powerful than you're letting on. Go deal with that. So that's what I loved about his character. His character's like, they're not after us, they're after you. And you can deal with that. We can just move on. Like you and the Grand Inquisitor, like you're talking about, that Grand Inquisitor, he understands that if you let these guys leave today, there'll be a problem for us tomorrow. And guess what? These are like the unsung heroes, the background characters who are going to be part of the Endor. And I think Endor is going to be like just like, you know, it's going to be.
It's going to be a
like,
continuation to that, right?
Yes,
Because
yeah.
Andor, I do believe Andor is going to be where Obi left off, but right before, you know,
A New Hope, yeah.
Not even A New Hope. Rogue Sun. Is it
Rogue One?
Rogue One.
Rogue
Rogue
One.
Rogue Sun's a comic book, guys. Rogue One.
I thought the Imperial Star Destroyer was going to pull a Tantive 4, like get the tractor beam and like pull it type of way.
But we also learned something is that stormtroopers can't even shoot in space when they have a giant spaceship shooting at another smaller ship, and they did not even touch it.
they touched it once or twice.
Oh yeah, they did touch it. They did touch it a bit. But you know, you saw later.
Where are the TIE fighters? Get the TIE fighters.
got it, yeah.
Listen, yeah. I feel like when I was watching it, I felt like Krennic, deploy the garrison type of way. Like,
Let's go. Let's talk about the main event, guys, because again, we're 1 hour in, and now it's time to talk about what we all want to talk about, and that is the main man, Darth Vader. Right? We've been waiting. We've been waiting.
James Earl Jones, man, comes back.
Darth Vader returns, and I'm not gonna lie, I loved it. I loved it. If anything, I think Vader to me was the best part of the series. Hands down, I loved every moment he was in. I loved everything that led to him. I love the fact that this Vader was super pumped. Like the power that this Vader had. Again, we saw it again in Rogue One. Remember in Rogue One with that scene, that that Daredevil scene. That's what I call it. This one like took it another notch, man. Where when he was out to get somebody, boy, he was out to get somebody. When he stopped that ship with just like doing that, and then he ripped it.
Yeah,
That to me was like, that's man.
Oh, man, I'm right there right now. The Sith powers in this whole the Sith powers in this whole episode, in this whole series, was just on top 10, like on another level. I mean, I'm surprised we haven't even talked about how they killed Flea's character with like, let's just spin the blade and just come towards it. Like, then, oh my God. And I'm sorry just to interrupt you, but Darth Vader did a move where he yoinked a person and used his own stormtrooper as a damn shield.
When was that?
That was when he was doing the interrogation to get them. That they landed on the planet, and they were just like he was just toying with them. He was dragging that one guy. Remember, he was just
he snapped the kid's neck.
This
is Disney Plus.
I was like, what are you doing, Disney?
Well, you saw they had a disclaimer, like there are some scenes here that might be
that's
disturbing.
Like, you might be offended by the scenes. I'm like, ooh.
It's a small world.
I actually thought we were gonna Jar Jar Binks or something. That's how I was gonna be offended by. But when he was doing
this fight, because this is the second fight with Obi-Wan and the Vader.
Well, he had two fights in the show, right? Yeah. So this would have been he had the original fight from episode 3. Then we had 2 fights here, and then there was a 4th fight, right?
Yeah.
And it turns out, man,
dude,
he can't beat Obi. He can't.
That first fight was brutal, man.
Yeah, the
first one Kenobi was like, wait, what am I doing? I'm just gonna use it as a ragdoll effect, back and forth. I was like, what?
No, and then when he lit up those like charcoal type of things, he's like, I'm not gonna kill you. I'm gonna make you suffer. And
when he takes his lightsaber
to the fire. I'm like, oh my gosh, man! But he instilled fear. He was toying with Kenobi. He was letting him run around. He's like, I'm gonna enjoy every moment of this.
Honorable mention: the droids were awesome in this thing.
Yeah, I will say the droids were great. So we get to that first fight, right? That first fight with Kenobi, Obi again. He was toying. He was toying with him, right? That first fight, he was toying. It's like, oh, I see this, I see that, and you can see it. Vader's like deep down inside, he's like, oh, I'm having fun, right? Eventually, Kenobi escapes, and let's talk about part 6. Part 6. I was worried about part 6 because we're dealing with the same Disney tropes of they're so slow, and then when they get to the last 1 or 2 episodes, they gotta like speed up the process, right? I think in this particular instance, part 6, for everything that was before, which again I wasn't too crazy about. Certain part 4 I wasn't crazy about. I think part 4 was probably the weakest episode, because it didn't solve anything. It just kept going in circles with that one. But with part 6, when I remember I heard a day before, like yesterday, I heard someone said that I think it was Deborah Chow who directed it. She said this is going to be the rematch of the century.
Yeah.
And you know what?
Yeah.
It pretty much was. I was really happy with that battle sequence because it started with Vader being dominant. But what I enjoyed about this particular Vader was that this felt like Anakin. Where, when we get to A New Hope and moving forward, you don't see that Anakin anymore. Like Anakin's gone. Like he's truly gone when he gets to that point. But here he felt like Anakin dressed up as Vader, which he was, because from what I was told, Hayden Christensen was playing Vader. Even though we had James Earl Jones' voice, which I was so happy to hear,
And
did
some of
have
the voices when he was doing that voice, some of them, I think episode 3 or episode 4, when we were in the fortress, you heard his, I think, or episode 3, his voice was really clean. Like he sounded like Empire, Empire Strikes Back type Vader. It's not like an older one. Like it's
yeah,
almost
it was
solidified.
James Earl Jones. But what was nice about episode 6, part 6, is when they did have that battle. And first of all, when he threw the rocks on top of Obi, I was like, oh, he
He's
ain't playing
burying
with
him.
Obi. And Obi, like he fights through, and then he just beats the crap out of him because it went right back to your training. You think you're so good and your training so great, you still haven't learned. And he punked him. He punked Vader, man.
Yeah, he did like a rope-a-dope with the lightsaber that got him like right in the. I don't want to spoil that, but
well, we're in spoiler territory, bro.
Right,
You can
dude,
spoil.
that rope to rope where he like picked up his hand, went back to his stance, then he went forward, then went back, and then forward down, and just ran into his face. I was like, it was like 5. It was like, dude, if you were playing that in any Mortal Kombat / Street Fighter, that was like a 4, 5, 6, 7 kill 8 streaks. He gave him like a 6-hit streak hit. Like it was like pow, 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 zah. I'm like, oh, you had to do it. You literally had to fast forward,
combo.
rewind, and fast forward to see just how awesome it was. It's like you actually saw the Obi-Wan you remembered.
Yeah,
from like
because he told him,
cartoons.
he said it's like, oh, you're getting your powers back, but and again he was like,
your strength has returned to you, but the weakness is still there.
Yeah.
I was like, oh my gosh,
smack talk.
Well, and it's interesting because I think it still showed like, hey, the light side is still stronger than the dark. Like you see, like Obi-Wan when he gets a street fight, like all things that remind them of like why he's got to fight, like Luke, Leia, everyone else. It's like,
yeah, and that was his moment when he realized I lost Anakin. Anakin's gone.
You see Kenobi strike his pose. He's like, I'll do what I must, and like we see the fighting, we see him get himself back. But can we just talk about for a quick moment the voice acting? You can hear the mixture between Anakin and
the modulator, the modulation, yeah.
To me, and then when he screams Obi-Wan, and it's like kind of distorted between the mix.
That was good. That was good.
That was really good.
Good sound engineering.
Yes, honestly,
they managed to get both of their voices intact, so you hear through the James voice, but you hear Hayden coming out of it.
He was defeated, utterly defeated.
Dude, he punched him in his chest, gave him a cut in his back. It was just like, wow. He was like, I'm sorry, man.
No, but he accepted the fact. He was like, listen. He's like, listen, you didn't kill Anakin. I did. And listen, when he said that, I was like, Kenobi, he knows what he has to do. He's like, then like he and not to say he was at peace, but he's like, so I don't need to basically worry. Like my friend is gone. Right? He's dead.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting because
so weird.
Go ahead, Roberto.
We know that. I mean, we know obviously he has to leave Vader because of it's Vader. But if you're watching this sequentially, it is interesting. You would almost imagine like he leaves Vader dying again. Almost like you're not worth my time. Like you're not Anakin anymore. You're Vader. You're weak. You're not kind of like you're not a threat to me anymore. And I feel like that's even more insulting to Vader. Again, it's like you're leaving me here again.
And that's the point I was making. It's like Darth Vader was more Anakin than Darth Vader. Like he was Anakin becoming Vader, but he still had his whiny, complaining self that we've all grew accustomed to know with Anakin, right? Because Anakin was always a complainer, always whining about everything, and it was nice to see how he still had that in him. You know what I mean? He was still like that in some weird way, where he's like, I can't get him. I can't beat he can't beat Obi, and I think that's what makes A New Hope so. It makes it so.
He didn't beat Obi. I mean, he didn't beat.
He didn't beat Obi.
A person who stands there letting you get hit, you didn't beat him, man.
And that's what I loved about it. It's like throughout the whole thing, throughout the entire run, right, that we have from the first episode all the way to the final fight with Obi, he never defeated Obi. Obi only allowed Vader to kill him when he knew it was time to move on because he allowed him to win. So Vader got lost of his win. He never got the win.
Yeah.
Right? He never got the win.
And even if we were to consider episode 3's fight a win for Vader, it still wasn't a fair fight.
But it wasn't a win either.
That's true, yeah.
Because he left him there for dead.
It was like a draw.
Well, and it's interesting because you almost even, and I think the other, have any of you seen Rebels?
Yeah, I've seen Rebels.
There's a similar scene with Anakin and Ahsoka. Or with Vader.
Dude, that was intense. I remember that.
And so that's like it's another almost insult to injury. Like no one from my past, no one from Anakin's past can you can't defeat any of them. You know, it's like the one who trained them, the one who he trained, still best them in battle. You know, it's like it almost, and it really is like adds to that whole like suffering aspect.
Yeah. So what my conclusion to that is that Vader's really good killing people who are defenseless, but when it came from a real battle, yeah, he was just like a heel. I'm sorry to say, he's just a heel.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But
I think it's because he still allows his emotions to get the best of him, even when he himself is void of all emotions. Right? Again, when his helmet gets, and I'm so happy they showed him. Because that's what I wanted to see. It's like, if you got Hayden Christensen back, I want to see Hayden Christensen as Vader. I don't want to see a little glimpse of it. I don't want to see flashbacks, which we did get, which the flashback
tail and whatnot
did look a little weird because he did look like a very much older Hayden Christensen. Come on, you got the money to fix him to make him look the way he used to look. I don't know why you didn't spend that money there. But the fact of the matter is that when he broke his helmet, right, and we got to actually see him, and we got to see what he, again, as Hayden Christensen in Vader. That was, again, we never get to see Vader without his helmet, but in this particular instance, we get to see that, and he's looking at him from his eye, like, and he's looking at Obi, and he's telling Obi in his face, Anakin's dead.
Yeah, but the Sith eyes and everything, he was in it.
He's like, and he never turned back. He never showed a sign of returning back to the good side, to the good side of the Force. He always reverted to the dark side, instead of the light side. And he never did go back to the light side until we get to Episode 6 in Star Wars. So
that makes that scene even more powerful because like when he tells Luke, like, let me see you with my own eyes. Here it is. It's a sign of like all these times you see him like. Before, when he was working with his own eyes, it was, I need to kill Anakin more. About here, it's like, no, we're killing Vader now.
Yeah. And there was a discussion, there was a rumor that he was going to find out about Luke. It turns out he never really did find out about Luke.
Yeah, it would have ruined New Hope.
Yeah.
It would have ruined New Hope.
I don't think
the
it would
entire
have been
canon.
I don't think it would have been that big of a problem, to be quite honest. It's depending on how you look at it. He could have done something where he's keeping Luke away from the Emperor because he knows about what Luke's capable of. But eventually he finds out, which is fine. But yeah, I actually love Vader in this show. Vader to me was my star character in this whole series. Him, then Obi. I wasn't thrilled about Reva. I'm sorry, guys. Reva. And again, she had a redemption.
At least it was for the right reasons. I'm going to tell you right now, at least it was for the right reasons. That's all I got to say. Like that.
But she came out of it with a redemption, and now what? Like, where is she?
She's gonna get her own
another
series,
Hunted Jedi.
I thought I heard that.
Yeah.
I thought she was gonna get her own series or something.
Then that's news to me. If that's the case,
dude, she's just going to be another Hunted Jedi. That's what happens. Yeah. Like, that's it. Now she has to go on the run. And that's the crazy thing. Now she's going to be on the run. Well, she used to be an inquisitor, so now you're on the run, and no one trusts you.
Mm-hmm.
That's going to be an interesting story
behind that. Yeah, there's a story behind that.
If what I heard was correct.
Mm-hmm. It's quite possible she could land her own series in some way. Right?
And you get a little.
And- yeah. So we
wasn't
get the Emperor Palpatine returns too in part 6, where even Palpatine's like, dude, you still hung over this guy? He's like, right? Because that's pretty much what he said, right? In a nutshell.
He's like, don't let your emotions get the best of you, Lord Vader.
Yeah, you still got feelings for him. You still love him. Seriously, you still love him.
That bromance.
You still got.
Listen, Vader's castle. Listen, that black marble, I loved it, honestly.
That throne, right?
Yeah.
He's just sitting on his throne. He's like, damn it, I can't beat him.
Can I ask you a question? Is that the same planet where he got hurt?
That's
yeah. I don't think so. So I'll tell you right now.
I think so. Yeah. Because there was a whole comic line where he builds his castle on Mustafar.
Yeah. And I heard that the place with the Fortress Inquisitorius was on one of the moons of Mustafar. It was like a water planet.
Oh my God.
They don't really show it here. Yeah, they do mention Mustafar. Yeah, because they, a restored Vader abandons his search for Kenobi after Emperor Palpatine questions his motives and loyalty. So he pretty much, what ends up happening is that he pretty much gives up on Obi, on trying to find him.
Yeah.
And let's face it, that's exactly what he did, because he doesn't go back to Obi ever again until A New Hope. So, but I'm not gonna lie, man, I loved it. I love Vader. That's the man right there.
They've yet to make a bad Vader. I mean, I'm telling you, they bad portrayal of Vader. They've done their. They know what they were doing. Like when especially when he walked out in the scene, started killing people randomly. Whole families and shit. I was like,
you felt the weight of his presence.
And then like when he finally got on the planet where what's the name of that planet? Rim. I'm sorry, but where all the people were actually, and he stopped a ship.
No, that's what I was saying. That he just ripped it off,
ripped it up, put it down, broke the. And then they're like,
and he did it like nothing. He did it like nothing. It wasn't like he was like, he literally took.
Yeah, he just
like nothing.
What's crazy is that I'm gonna say it in canon, and it's official canon, Obi-Wan is that powerful too. Mm-hmm. So that's what Kenobi is, just as powerful. Mm-hmm. But he's just been so far away from the Force so long. It was kind of like, to me, it was kind of sad, because I really, like I said, everyone knows Obi-Wan and Boba Fett are my two favorite characters. And it's just like, when I saw, like, I want more of Obi-Wan's story. Like, but man, it was just like.
Well, there's a possibility that there's a second season. There's a possibility of a second season. I don't think we need one, honestly.
No, I don't think so either.
Honestly, there's only 9 years left, and why? I don't.
Maybe 9, maybe 7.
9. That, and plus, they're not gonna go back. They're not, unless
they do.
The only thing that they might be able to do is that if you start Obi-Wan's journey right after Order 66, right after he drops.
No, they're not gonna go there. Then I don't.
No,
that's a prequel within a prequel. You ain't doing that.
True.
Yeah,
well,
that should be
a prequel within another prequel. I don't even know what you call
prequelception.
Yeah, exactly. So let's talk about one last thing, which is the last part of the episode before we go into our review scores. Towards the end, we get this. We get, he takes him back. He takes Leia back. Well, Leia's already back, but he shows up. He gives Lola, which I thought was cute, back to Leia, and we get this nice end scene when he returns to Tatooine, and right there is where the moment we were waiting for to see Qui-Gon. I can never get his name. I always saw Quinn. Qui-Gon Jinn, which Liam Neeson returns, which I think we were all happy. It was like, yeah, we got to get that scene. And he's just like, what took you so long? Literally, that's what he says. So it's like,
Did
It
you
was
see
really
what the guy you picked from that desert did to the fucking on? That's good.
The entire galaxy.
The entire galaxy because you wanted this kid. Like,
Why didn't you save his mom from enslavement?
Yeah. When they just
like, damn, kid. I'll let you see me when I want to see me. Right, when everything is
look
gone to crap.
at the and this is what I like about when it comes to shows or movies when they give when they do the outfits for the characters. In the beginning, Obi-Wan was dressed in very dreary, dirty, clothing, like he was like not in his monotonous lifestyle. In the last episode, he's wearing what seems to be Jedi robes. They look clean. They look white. It's not like dark as
Keep in
before.
mind, man, he was 10 years in a cave. There was no
No, I'm
shower.
saying, but no, I mean that's true. But I'm saying that how he's broken out of that glumness, that gloominess into his own. I think that's very interesting. Of how that's a detail that I just really like.
He just took a leave of absence from the meat factory. He's going back to the meat factory.
That's true.
He was like, "Here's my papers. I'll be back in a couple of weeks. I'm on a family leave."
Well, interesting that outfit. I don't know if you guys noticed. There was an Easter egg. There's the Mythos Obi-Wan statue that was what Sideshow Collectibles. They did like a figure. It was the exact same outfit that you see that they did. How many years ago? It was like this hypothetical Obi-Wan walking through the desert. That was kind of cool.
Yeah, that was kind of cool. So, with that being said, let's go ahead and let's do our final reviews. We'll start with Luis. Luis, what would you give from a scale of 1 through 5? What would you give Obi-Wan Kenobi series?
I would say maybe a 3.8 or 4.
Mm-hmm. Tell me why.
There were some instances in the show that like the Grand Inquisitor being taken out the second episode, even though we know he was going to be a license. This is 5 years before Rebels, and we see the Grand Inquisitor there. But certain little things of, I mean, there are things that we didn't even talk about that we couldn't go in depth to, like when they were in the fortress and Tala smacked the stormtrooper, and it's like, what the heck? Very small details, but I think I'll give it like a 3.8 or to 4. Yeah.
All right, Roberto, what about you? What would you give it?
I think 4.3. I think if you look at it as a whole, like as a very extended movie, like you understand it a little bit more. You understand certain characters and what their motives, as opposed to just kind of like episodic. It didn't have the flaws that like we saw in Book of Boba Fett, where it's like, I wish there was some more things. I wish we had more like Inquisitor fighting. More like Inquisitor versus Obi-Wan or something like that, or even each other a little bit more than what we saw. Mm-hmm. I was kind of holding out for Hondo. Or Raka. But I think overall, I mean, it did its job. It hit all the right, bells. It kind of, like you said, like it doesn't need a second season. It's kind of a completed story. You see kind of set up, it builds in, like it builds some of the nostalgia. So when you see a New Hope, like you're like, oh yeah, this is the toy that Obi-Wan gave him. This is that, and kind of even does a little bit more connecting to even like the sequel trilogy, because I saw some people say like, well, that's why he called Leia named her son Ben, as opposed to anything else. So there's this connection, like, okay, you did a lot here without overdoing it, and some of it was subtle, some of it was good, and that fight scene was amazing.
Yeah,
definitely.
Andrew, what about you? What would you give it?
I'm going to give it like a 4. I'm going to give it a solid 4.0 because I'm going to tell you right now, was Kenobi's story. They had some really solid side characters and even solid connecting characters. Again, when it comes to the aesthetic of Star Wars, I think Disney just knows. Like, I'm not going to give any critiques on the art because the artwork is just brilliant. Castle, every single scene was great. Every single cinematography, every single destination biome was great. Even how they did. What I actually lost points was dialogue and flow, like the flow of dialogue.
Agreed.
So I think I don't know why I'm feeling this, but I think there's a lot of editing happened in Obi-Wan. So there's a lot of scenes I think that were just taken out because of time consuming. And I wish people go and see the deleted scenes or certain things, because Obi-Wan Kenobi had a couple of cool deleted scenes, and also have I really think people should take their time to look at Kenobi's extras. All said and done, yeah, I'm going to give it a solid 4. I like dialogue. I'm a big when everything is good, when the package is pretty, then we have to look at the story. The story was compelling, was interesting. There were just certain aspects of where if you're a longtime fan and you're a big Kenobi fan and you're a longtime like Star Wars fan, this is the story you wanted to be told. You wanted to be told what happened to the Jedi after 616. This is and when you saw the first 2 episodes, you just have like this somber moment that's like, yes, they are gone. Like the Jedi that we all know and love are gone. From Kodo to Knights of the Old Republic to now, that era had officially ended. And I was just like, I mean, seriously, there's a scene where the kids are running over the Dumwell, like they're over the bridge, and that's just nothing but stormtroopers. I mean, clone troopers and Jedi. And then you see in episode 3 when you saw that clone trooper sitting in the muck, all disheveled, and it looks like he's PST'd out and half crying and just like, what did I do? Like you could tell that you can literally tell like this era is over. And I was like, that's why I gave it a solid 4. Dialogue though, there are just certain things that were like, okay, guys, I love the dialogue between the Inquisitors. I love Obi-Wan Kenobi's dialogue. I loved Indira's dialogue, but then everything else was just like, we'll just throw a scene here, we'll just throw a scene there. So it kind of like that flow was just giving me like a problem, like the flow. I have no problem with none of the characters. People, I'm going to say right now, I liked the character you told me to look after. Research Reva. Reva has an interesting story, and that's what you see. Like you actually see that kind of a character. I absolutely love the Inquisitors fighting, and this is to me is the Sith story. And you're going to have 100 Sith stories afterwards.
Yeah,
because this is how bad guys are acting. This is quintessentially what bad guys do.
Yeah,
and they're all fighting for a prize.
So 4 out of 5 from you, Andrew. All right,
Yeah,
so it's my turn, guys. So before I reveal my score, I will say overall, I do believe this was a better show than Boba Fett.
Definitely.
It was better. It was better than Boba Fett. It wasn't better than Mandalorian. Mandalorian is still on the top of the list as far as my favorites go. So I will give it that much. One thing I did find interesting that first of all, this was a full story by Deborah Chow. Deborah Chow was the director of every episode, so it was all her speaking. It wasn't like this guy did that part, this guy did that part. So it was all her. It was all her telling the story. It was all her being involved in the process of making the story. So with that being said, I have to give credit to where credit's due.
Yeah.
Deborah Chow made a movie. She made a movie, a TV series, and she made a movie. So we knew where the beginning was. We know where the ending was. We just didn't know what was going on in the middle. With that said, I like the fact that it wasn't based off of Luke. It was based off of Leia more than anything. So he made appearances here and there, but nothing. He was not important. He wasn't even a second tier character. He was like a third tier character. He was there just so you could say that Luke is there, right?
Placeholder.
Yeah, he was a placeholder, right? The only thing that we have with Luke was really the spaceship and all that stuff that he eventually gave him. And the story that started with a quest to save Leia became a hunt for Obi, which ended up being a mission to kill Vader. I thought that was an interesting take on how to get to this point. With that said, I wasn't a fan of Reva's intentions because they were all over the place, and that's probably the problem that I had with Reva. I had no problem with Moses Ingram's acting ability. I did at times, as you said, felt campy, felt very teen Nickish in its acting style. Where Saved by the Bell acting, where she was kind of pouty in a weird way, but I don't know if they did that on purpose. So it's hard to tell, not knowing the actress from other scenes, and see if that's the same thing. So I wasn't sure about that. What sold to me, as you guys already know, what sold to me was Vader, and every scene Vader was on. He was everything we know Vader is and always will be, a badass, right? But what I did like was, as also I mentioned, was we did see Anakin coming through Vader, which I thought was cool, was like a cool callback. So it made perfect sense to bring Hayden Christensen back. I'm happy that he brought him back, especially since he had a lot of hate when he left, when it was all said and done. So it was nice to see Hayden Christensen kind of get his glory back. And he's up for more. He definitely said he's up for more. I wouldn't have a problem seeing more of him, especially since I don't know how much more we have of James Earl Jones, unfortunately. You know what I mean? Because he's pretty much up there in age already.
At 91 or something like that.
I absolutely believe that maybe there'll probably be maybe one more Vader thing.
Oh, I'm sure they recorded. Yeah. They recorded so much of him talking. That right. I'm sure that they got loads of footage. They probably
a whole soundboard.
They probably just told him, read a dictionary. Let's get you read every single word in the dictionary.
Yeah.
Keep in mind that, in case you guys didn't know, there is an audio book of James Earl Jones reading the Bible. Yeah. So if you ever want to read the Bible or listen to the Bible as told by Darth Vader, go for it. Just think about that.
The man who snapped a kid's neck and killed the wings.
I just want that in my phone. In the beginning.
And the Lord said to Joshua, you know what I mean? I want to see that. I want to hear it. You know, I have a friend who did download it, so go check it out. And he's reading the King James version, so that's even better.
Yes,
so, you know what I'm saying. So he sold the show for me. I thought Ewan McGregor was fantastic, but then again, he's always fantastic. I got nothing bad to say about Ewan McGregor. He's always fantastic. There were some great scenes. Freck was awesome. I love Freck.
Oh my gosh.
Freck's my man. He may be a mole. He may be a Trump supporter, but I love him. All right?
He's going to make the galaxy great again.
I'm
sorry, man. You say it was that rap. I was like, okay.
He was definitely he's definitely a Trump. He's a Trump supporter. I'm sorry to say, I could just see him with the red MAGA hat. You know what I'm saying, guys?
I have Vader's face right on my arm, and on the other arm, it's actually, you know, so, you actually see like the imperial flag, and it's waving. Look at it.
You know, and with most Disney Plus shows, they don't always end properly. I think this had a nice little ending. It put a nice little bow tie to it, and stuff like that, where we still, it kind of it took us right back to where we end off, right?
Yeah.
So I'm fine with it. I didn't have a problem with that. With that said, my score is gonna be 3 out of 5 Izzy's, guys. That's what's gonna get. That is my score, because there were some problems in the middle. The middle story had a lot of issues. There was no movement going on with certain parts. So that's why I'm going to give it 3 out of 5 Izzy's. Overall, I enjoyed the show. I liked watching it. I wasn't bored watching it. Sometimes you can watch a Star Wars show or a Star Wars movie, and sometimes it can feel boring sometimes. You know what I mean? Yeah. But this one wasn't. I loved it. Some of the humor was good, was spot on, and it felt Star Wars. It felt like a Star Wars show.
Yeah.
So I was really happy to see that. So with that said,
I'm also happy. Yeah, I'm also happy that we got to see another cool Star Wars, and then you're gonna actually have Ahsoka story. Then you're gonna have Endor story. And I'm happy to see more of it. I think everyone's happy for more Star Wars.
I just want to leave Tatooine. No Tatooine, please.
Maybe we will. So our next Star Wars show that we're going to be doing is going to be the Andor preview show. That's going to be our next Star Wars show that we're going to be doing, guys. So be on the lookout. We're going to change our Facebook group from the Obi-Wan group to the Andor group. So be on the lookout for that. I'll let you guys know when we're doing that. I think Andor is supposed to be scheduled sometime in August. So we are going to do Andor next. Then Ahsoka will follow, I'm sure, afterwards. Guys, it's always a blast having you in the show. You are my Star Wars gurus, man. That's that area of the Izzyverse. So, starting with you, Roberto, where can people find you?
Where can you find me? I'm on Instagram at Calro_DIBRO. It's my Jedi name. Had it for like a year. You know, one of those Jedi name makers. But I do some action figure art and, do some posing with action figures.
Awesome. Definitely check out Roberto. So, Roberto, I'm going to put you in the lobby, man.
Yeah.
Bye. Louis, you're next, my brother. Where can people
Well,
find you?
on Instagram at Reconstruction99, Puerto Rican, like Rican, RICAN, and then Instruction 99.
Awesome. Thanks for joining us, Louis. I'll put
Yep.
you in the lobby. And Andrew, where can we find you, my bro?
You can find me on Instagram, Andrew Frank Rodriguez Art, and Instagram, Andrew Frank Rodriguez. You can also find me at also my group site, which is Dead Do Walk. I talk about zombies and zombie culture and also zombie movies. And yeah, and I've been playtesting a group, so you can now probably find me in about 2 months. Yeah, I want to be in Twitch, so later I will tell you that, but it's for the game for Bloodlines and Black Magic. And of course, since I'm D&D, I'm always open for commissions for D&D characters and maps. So,
all right, bro. Nice having you. I'll put you in the lobby now. All right, with that being said, guys, it was a blast doing this Obi-Wan spoiler review. We hope you enjoyed it. Again, if you did enjoy it, give me a nice little like. Hit that nice like button and always leave a comment. Leave a positive comment. I love reading comments. I will reply to your comment if you leave a comment. Also, keep in mind, it puts you in a drawing to win the book of the month. I'm going to be giving away a special Hulk issue 6 variant cover provided to me by the good friends at Comic Exposure. If you're looking to buy some comic books from Comic Book Exposure, this is the place to go. You get 15% off with promo code Izzyverse. All you got to do is pick out the books that you want. When you go into checkout, you're going to see there's a promo code in place. Just type in the Izzyverse and you're going to get 15, not 5, not 10, but 15% off your purchase if you go to Comic Exposure. Also, keep in mind that this Friday, absolutely, we're going to be doing our Forbidden Door telecast. We're going to be doing our predictions. We're going to do a preview. We're going to talk a little bit about the card, what's going on right now in AEW since today is Wednesday, and New Japan. And I'm so excited for this one. This is one I can't wait to see. It should be fun to watch. So be on the lookout for that one. That's coming out this Friday. I got a good group of guys that are going to be joining me for that show. And for next week, it's Kickstarter week, right? I like doing the last week of the month as a Kickstarter week. So we do have some picks. And if you know somebody that has a Kickstarter project that you'd like us to talk about a little bit more about, let me know in the comments. Also, let me know through Instagram or wherever you can find me, guys. I would love to review the Kickstarter books. Again, we're going to be picking out a couple of books that we see that are in Kickstarter. We'll kind of give them a little boost, a little encouragement. Hopefully they can hit their goals. Our last Kickstarter, they all hit their goals. So I'm really happy about that one. And there's so much more to come, guys. Again, I am so happy to having you in my show. I have Umbrella Academy. I'm going to work on doing an Umbrella Academy spoiler review. For those of you who watch Umbrella Academy, I can't wait to begin to watch the series. So be on the look at that one. Also, Miss Marvel's going to happen. So we'll do that one. And yes, part 2 of Stranger Things will occur. And I will let you know when that happens. When Stranger Things, the second half of Stranger Things season 4 happens, I will let you know when the spoiler review will happen. So a lot of things are coming in the pipeline. Be on the lookout. Always leave a like and subscribe to the Izzyverse. Our goal is to hit 800. If we hit 800, I'm going to give away this Spawn book complete with a sketch. It's going to have a sketch. 329, Spawn 329. I'm giving this away to some lucky viewer. Again, all you got to do is leave a comment and subscribe to the channel. That's how it's done. I know some of you are watching through Facebook, but it's through YouTube. You got to leave the comment through YouTube so I can make sure that you are entered to win. And again, July's book of the month is going to be Hulk issue 6. This one is for 800 subscribers. So again, once I hit 800 subscribers, I'm going to give this one to somebody. But Hulk issue 6, the variant cover, that's going to be provided. I'll show it to you guys next time we do the show. With that said, I love you guys. It's been great. I'll see you next time. And in the words of Stan Lee, Excelsior.